Thank you, everyone, for joining. As Misha said, this is a very hard time for us, all Israelis and Jews around the world, because of what happened over the weekend. But the main reason why I've decided not to cancel these meetings and others is because I really believe we need to keep innovating and keep do what we do in order to be able to maintain some routine in this chaos, and to still thrive. And honestly, like on a personal note, I'm sitting here in 7 World Trade Center, and in 9/11 there was a major crisis here, and we're very proud to sit here again and to be able to be here with our teams and see how this whole area was rebuilt, and hopefully we'll get there as well. So with that, I would like to start with an introduction. As Misha said, we're focusing mainly on the high-level cybersecurity strategy, but we're trying to take this high-level strategy and basically turn it into something CISOs can really use in their day-to-day work. So I'm not going to really, I think I can share my screen, Misha, if you can enable this. But what I'm mainly going to focus on today is really the challenges and the things that basically led me and my team to develop the solution we're developing in order to allow CISOs manage all their security efforts in one place, basically to make better decisions, data-driven decisions, optimize ROI, and basically communicate and turn your cybersecurity programs into business outcomes. So with that, I'll share my screen. And the main topic I would like to address today is really how we can achieve a successful cyber security management in this age of corporate risk regulation and basically, well, I see some more people joining, so I'll try to admit them while I'm talking. And basically to be able to follow those regulations. And I don't know why I hear myself twice. Okay.
Let me put myself on mute.
Okay. So a little bit about myself before I start with the actual presentation. I started my career in the Israeli Army. I served for 10 years in the IDF. I was a cybersecurity officer. I was the CISO of the Research and Analysis Division and the head of the Information Security Unit for the Intelligence Corps. Later, I worked for other defense industries, critical infrastructures. Was one of the first employees in Perimeter 81, if you've heard about them, and also developed a cybersecurity master's degree or master's program for YU and became the program director later on. About a year and a half ago, I started Onyxia. And the vision was really to solve a problem that I have experienced as a CISO, and it was really the ability to manage better our cybersecurity program. Over the years, I realized that almost any company I worked with was still managing their security programs in Excel sheets. So I have asked many CISOs to send me those Excel sheets, and eventually we ended up with 200 Excel sheets that presented different metrics, different ways to measure and calculate data, and different metrics under different domains. And we realized that in this age, it makes no sense that while any other C-level in the company has a cybersecurity management platform to support their work, CISOs still don't have it. On the right, that's me on a SAP, stand-up paddle board. I usually do that on the weekends here on the Hudson. And I, yeah, that's another thing that I love to do besides doing the other complicated stuff that we're trying to solve here. And with that, I'll continue with the trends that we're seeing in the market in the past few months. So if when I started, I think security management was a problem, but there were many ways to look at it and address it. But now we see that regulation, and especially the SEC risk management new rule that was approved, going to really change the game, especially for bigger companies and public companies. The three main components of this rule are basically the fact that companies needs to disclose their material cybersecurity incidents in 4 days. The second aspect of it is that companies need to disclose their cybersecurity strategies and programs. And another aspect is to have at least one board member in the company with cybersecurity expertise. Even though some companies really maintain from time to time reports in that way, in one way or another, there is no automated way to do that today, and we still see companies using analysts to aggregate data, pull reports. Some do that in Tableau if they're more advanced, some still using Excel, and I used to do that as well. I'm not saying it's not okay, it's just that it's very time consuming, and we see that those reports needs to be very accurate, and when you're only updating them once a while, it's becoming even harder. And basically now with the new requirement, we see that companies needs to be more prepared in the light of these regulations. Another thing I wanted to present here today, and I'm sure many of you are familiar with this mesh architecture. I took this definition from Gartner. So we see that the CSMA, the cybersecurity mesh architecture, is something that can be presented in many ways, and many companies look at it in different ways. But the idea behind it is that in the fast growing complex environment that CISOs are handling, we need really the ability to have a centralized dashboard or a centralized way to present our security posture management, threat awareness, the effectiveness and efficiency of our cybersecurity programs, and the ability to collaborate between different divisions. So I know many different platforms and many different technologies can fall in under different categories, and we're building our platform. We're not trying to necessarily align with any specific category, but I think this is a very interesting way to look at what we're doing, even though we're not covering everything yet, but I'm not sure if there are if there are so many companies who are still able to address all these aspects yet, but hopefully we'll get there soon. About when we started, in order to not just come up with a solution, we decided to run a research or a survey with around 200 companies. We engaged with a research company, and we asked them to. We came with a list of questions and metrics that we've seen in most of the companies we've worked with, in order to understand what are the exact formulas and metrics that companies are using in order to measure their performance. And it was a very interesting way for us to really learn how things actually going on in the field. So For example, in like the domains we cover are pretty much the domains I believe all of you are covering as part of your cybersecurity program, which are probably vulnerability management, incident response, training and awareness, and obviously we're aligning with the main 5 pillars of NIST: identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. And we took all these domains, we broke down different KPIs under each domain, and we reached out to companies and asked them how they're measuring those specific KPIs, and also what is their SLA for those different KPIs. And the reason obviously why we did it is because in order to be able to measure or assess your own performance, you need to be able to compare yourself to something, and CISOs usually are the people who define the SLA for their companies. But on top of that, what we've done is to also allow CISOs the ability to benchmark themselves against other companies. What was interesting, and I'll show you later, what was interesting for us to see is that many companies in specific industries, for example, we had a few real estate companies, and now we have a few real estate customers, and they told us we do not want to compare ourselves to other real estate companies. We want to compare ourselves to finance because they usually have the highest standard. So it's very interesting to see how different CISOs are willing to benchmark themselves against others, but also how they define their own SLA internally per KPI. And those are just examples of some of the Excel sheets. Obviously we blurred it, but some of the examples of Excel sheets that we actually got from CISOs, and it's really unbelievable that some of us are still doing all this very hard process manually. The logic behind automating these processes, as I mentioned, I mean, obviously it takes a lot of time to aggregate all the data, but also when we're doing it once a while, it's really hard to come up and see trends over time. So what we've created is we basically built a library. So when the CISO onboard to the platform, the CISO can customize the product in a way that really fits the company's needs. So if there are some metrics that you don't think are relevant for your company, you don't necessarily need to activate them. But when we activate a KPI, and we call the KPI Cyber Performance Indicator, we allow companies to really connect directly or integrate directly with different sources and allow you the ability to measure one KPI from multiple different resources, which is another thing that, sorry, I didn't. Okay. So I just I don't know if there's not muted here. I'm sorry. So with that, we're basically helping companies to better assess their environment and cover all the different domains from all the different resources, and to be able to create this continuous control monitoring that is basically focused on the a high level strategy and the security program assessment. Here we took an example of one of the things we found as part of the research, and we see that basically mean time to resolve SLA for CISOs is 9 hours, and that financial services have an average target for mean time to resolve of 9.3, almost 2 hours longer than IT. So many very interesting insights that came out of this report. And by the way, we're going to release this report because we think companies can learn a lot about other companies' SLAs and the way other companies measure it. So we're going to share it just for companies to learn. But you can see and what you see here in the screen is like our way to basically present it also in our platform. So at any time, CISOs can see what is the average SLA and where they're at comparing to others, and adjust the security program and the SLA per KPI accordingly. So in the same way, I'll continue with the benchmarking. We not only present the benchmarking and the data and the different trends, but the goal is to really allow CISOs to do something about it. The way we're looking at risk is from a little bit of a different approach than the traditional GRC solutions that just present a score with a risk that most of us are really aware of, but those products basically quantify. Our approach to risk is to really present actionable insights that can help companies improve their performance in order to reduce risks. So we show you how you perform, but we can also tell you what you can improve in order to perform better, and by that reduce the risks. And in a later phase, we're going to also add predictions that basically show you where you're not going to meet your SLA, and some more other sophisticated things. And I think obviously we're happy to share with everyone the finalized report, but we can learn a lot from other companies, and the benchmarking will be something we will basically release for free. Another example here is the security awareness training. One of the security awareness training metrics, which is an acceptable percentage of users who successfully pass security awareness training. One of the things that were interesting actually in the security awareness domain, we worked with customers, we've seen that we can present trends, but it's interesting how you, like CISOs and the security leaders are basically running the security for the company, can really tell the story behind it. So we had a customer that one day had a peak of phishing click rates in the phishing click rates metrics, and then we were reviewing with him the platform, and then he told us, yeah, I'm not worried about that because that's when I was clicking so many times to test the simulation. So it's interesting how like when you see all this data combined, and you can see over time trends of improvement and where there were peaks, and you're able to also add tags and then export it into a report and have the whole story combined in a very easy way. It's so valuable, and it's so interesting to work closely with CISOs and to learn all the stories and how they're basically managing everything, and how we're significantly improving CISO's life by doing this. One of the other things, I mean, we're talking about regulation and the manual processes and the benchmarking and following frameworks. One of the things that basically we wanted to share here as well, on top of everything, is really the fact that CISOs are becoming more and more relevant in the boardroom, and as such, there always needs to have everything ready in a way that is very easy to communicate with other business stakeholders. And in order to do that, it is important to understand best practice, understand different frameworks, etc. But what really matters, as much as we have learned so far in the boardroom, is to show how the security was basically improved over time. If we're investing now 100K in a specific product, how at the end of the year it really improved our cybersecurity posture, how we can justify this budget for next year, how a specific product basically helped us to prevent or reduce a risk, and not just presenting it in a score, but really to be able to explain it from a business perspective, and from that to basically turn CISOs to more proactive, but also to be considered as business enablers, and which is something that we know it's very, very challenging sometimes. So with that, we have here the elements of the strategic vision for cybersecurity as a business decision, and some of these elements were also implemented in the product. Basically, I told you that we have this library and you customize the dashboard based on different key metrics. So on those key metrics, we also added tags. So you can see if you're using a metrics that is coming from NIST or the Gartner best practices, and you can basically create your own program based on all these best practices, based on this knowledge, based on this benchmarking, and come up with something that is relevant to you, but you're able to also explain to other business stakeholders in a way they can really understand. So with that, to summarize, what we covered today is basically the things that are enabling the whole concept of cybersecurity management platforms, and it's basically the new regulation of the SEC and some other approaches to make CISOs more active or proactive in the boardrooms and as part of the business. We understand that in order to do that, companies need to have an accurate and automated program assessment. The importance of internal and external benchmarking is key, because often when we explain board members where we're at comparing to others, it's really helpful for them in order to understand the company's status, and obviously the ability to create and report and adjust those dashboards and turn them into business outcomes. Thank you so much for the opportunity to present today, and I'm happy to answer any questions and to connect with all of you.